Dying dog found tied to post in blizzard. Then woman does something no one expected. On one of the coldest days of winter, when the wind howled through bare branches and snow blanketed the world in silent white, a small figure huddled against an old fence post on the outskirts of town. Black Bean, a medium-sized mixed breed with soulful brown eyes, shivered uncontrollably as snowflakes settled on his matted fur. His once glossy black coat had dulled, and his belly was distended, a sign of the illness ravaging his body. Just hours earlier, the only family he'd ever known had driven away, leaving him tied to the post with nothing but a frayed rope and a worn collar. He couldn't understand why they'd left him there, why the hands that once fed him had now abandoned him to the mercy of the elements. Sarah Chun, a local rescue volunteer, was driving home from her shift at the animal shelter when something caught her eye, a dark shape against the white landscape that seemed out of place. She might have missed it entirely if not for the late afternoon sun catching a reflection off Black Bean's collar. "Please, let me not be too late," she whispered, carefully pulling her car over to the snow-covered shoulder. The temperature gauge on her dashboard read -15 degrees. As she approached, her heart breaking at the sight before her, Black Bean lifted his head weakly. Despite his condition, despite the betrayal he'd just experienced, his tail gave the faintest of wags. "Oh, sweetheart," Sarah breathed, tears freezing on her cheeks. "What did they do to you?" Her trained eye quickly assessed his condition. The bloated belly, the labored breathing, the patches of fur missing from what appeared to be old wounds. But what struck her most was the look in his eyes. Confusion mixed with an unwavering hope that humans might still be kind. Sarah pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, calling her rescue partner, Mike Davidson. "Mike, I need you here with the transport van, and bring blankets, lots of them. We've got an emergency." While waiting for Mike, Sarah sat in the snow beside Black Bean, speaking to him softly and offering him small sips of water from her bottle. She noticed how he drank cautiously, as if each swallow caused him pain. "You're safe now," she promised, carefully wrapping her scarf around him. "No one will ever abandon you again." Mike arrived 20 minutes later, his rescue van creating tracks in the fresh snow. Together, they worked quickly but gently to free Black Bean from his restraints. The rope had frozen to his collar, and they had to use warm water from Sarah's thermos to separate them without causing more pain. "He's in rough shape," Mike observed as they lifted Black Bean onto a stretcher. "Look at his belly. That's ascites if I've ever seen it. Probably liver-related." Sarah nodded grimly. "Let's get him to the rescue center. Dr. Martinez said she'd wait for us." As they drove through the gathering dusk, Sarah sat in the back with Black Bean, monitoring his condition. She'd seen many cases of abandonment in her years of rescue work, but something about this one touched her deeply. Perhaps it was the way Black Bean kept trying to show affection despite his obvious pain, or maybe it was the note she'd found tucked into his collar. "His name is Black Bean. We can't afford him anymore. Please help." "Who names a dog Black Bean?" Mike wondered aloud from the driver's seat. "Someone who once loved him," Sarah replied softly, stroking Black Bean's head. "Someone who maybe didn't know there were other options, other ways to get help." Suddenly, the van lurched to the right. Mike cursed as he fought the steering wheel. "Flat tire," he announced, pulling over carefully. "The spare's in the back." Sarah looked down at Black Bean, whose breathing had become more labored. They couldn't afford any delays, but here they were, stuck on a snow-covered road as night approached. "Call Dr. Martinez," she decided. "Tell her we need her to come to us. Black Bean can't wait." The next hour seemed to stretch endlessly as they waited for Dr. Martinez. Sarah covered Black Bean with every blanket they had, creating a nest of warmth in the back of the disabled van. Mike worked tirelessly to change the flat tire, his hands growing numb in the bitter cold. Through it all, Black Bean remained surprisingly calm, as if he somehow understood these strangers were trying to help him. His large brown eyes followed Sarah's every movement, and occasionally, he would try to lick her hand, a gesture that brought fresh tears to her eyes. "Even after everything you've been through," she whispered, You still have so much love to give. Dr. Martinez's headlights finally cut through the darkness, illuminating the swirling snow. The veterinarian worked quickly, performing an initial examination in the back of her SUV. His condition is critical, she confirmed, listening to Blackbean's chest. The ascites is severe, and I'm hearing concerning sounds in his lungs. He needs immediate treatment. They carefully transferred Blackbean to Dr. Martinez's vehicle, which was equipped with emergency medical supplies. Sarah insisted on riding with them, unable to bear the thought of leaving him alone. During the drive to the clinic, Dr. Martinez explained what they were facing. Liver ascites in dogs can have multiple causes: heart failure, malnutrition, infections. Without proper testing, we won't know exactly what we're dealing with. But the good news is, many cases are treatable if we catch them in time. Sarah held Blackbean's paw, noticing how his nails had grown too long, another sign of neglect. What are his chances, doctor? Let's take it one step at a time, Dr. Martinez replied diplomatically. First, we need to stabilize him and run some tests. At the clinic, a team of veterinary technicians sprang into action. They started 4 fluids, drew blood samples, and began the process of draining the excess fluid from Blackbean's abdomen, a procedure that would provide immediate relief but wasn't a long-term solution. Sarah paced the waiting room, her clothes still damp from sitting in the snow. Mike arrived shortly after, having successfully changed the tire, bringing coffee and sandwiches neither of them felt like eating. You know, Mike said, trying to distract Sarah from her worry, I've been thinking about the name Blackbean. It's kind of perfect for him, isn't it? Like comfort food, something that warms you up on a cold day. Sarah managed a small smile. You're right, and he certainly has the coloring for it. Hours passed as they waited for news. Other staff members came and went, all of them stopping to ask about the dog rescued from the snow. Word spread quickly in their small community, and soon, offers of help began pouring in through the rescue's social media pages. Finally, around midnight, Dr. Martinez emerged from the treatment area, looking tired but cautiously optimistic. We've stabilized him for now, she reported. The blood work shows significant liver dysfunction, but not failure. There's also evidence of chronic malnutrition and a bacterial infection, likely from untreated wounds. It won't be an easy recovery, but I believe he has a fighting chance. Sarah felt her knees go weak with relief. Can we see him? Dr. Martinez led them to the recovery area where Blackbean lay on a heated bed, connected to various monitors and 4 lines. Despite his condition, he lifted his head when he heard them approach, that same gentle tail wag greeting them. Look at that spirit, Mike marveled. Most dogs would be completely shut down after what he's been through. That's what gives me hope, Dr. Martinez agreed. His will to live is strong. Now, we need to discuss his ongoing care. He'll need a special diet, multiple medications, and regular monitoring. The rescue center isn't equipped for this level of care. I'll take him, Sarah interrupted, surprising even herself with the certainty in her voice. I have experience with medical fosters, and I work from home most days. Dr. Martinez nodded approvingly. I was hoping you'd say that. We can start training you on his care routine tomorrow. For tonight, he needs rest, and so do you. But Sarah couldn't bring herself to leave. Instead, she pulled up a chair beside Blackbean's bed, determined to let him know he wouldn't be abandoned again. Sweet boy, she whispered, gently stroking his ear. You're going to learn what it means to be truly loved. Promise. As if in response, Blackbean shifted slightly, pressing his head against her hand. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside, wrapped in warmth and care, a new journey was beginning. One that would teach both human and dog about the healing power of unconditional love. The next few days passed in a blur of medical treatments, training sessions, and preparations for Blackbean's home care. Sarah transformed her cozy suburban house into a rehabilitation center, setting up a special bed in her living room where she could monitor him easily. Remember, Dr. Martinez instructed as they prepared for discharge. The medications must be given at exact times. The diuretics will help with the fluid buildup, but they'll make him need to go out frequently, even at night. Sarah nodded, carefully noting everything in the journal she'd started keeping. She'd already taken a week off work to help Blackbean settle in, and her kitchen counter looked like a small pharmacy. "What about his diet?" she asked, watching as the technicians prepared Blackbean for transport. "Small, frequent meals of the prescription food we've provided. His body needs to relearn how to process nutrients properly. And no treats yet, no matter how much those eyes beg." Blackbean, as if knowing they were talking about him, gave them his most soulful look from his bed. Despite his serious condition, his personality was beginning to shine through, sweet, gentle, and surprisingly mischievous at times. The drive home was careful and slow. Sarah had lined her car's back seat with soft blankets, creating a comfortable nest. Every few minutes, she glanced in the rearview mirror, checking on her passenger who seemed content to watch the world pass by his window. "Welcome to your new home, sweet boy," Sarah announced as they pulled into her driveway. The small yellow house with its fenced yard looked cheerful even in the winter gloom. "It's not fancy, but it's filled with love." Getting Blackbean inside was a careful process. His legs were still weak, and the ascites made movement uncomfortable. But with patience and gentle encouragement, they managed to settle him into his new bed. Sarah's cat, Mr. Whiskers, watched the proceedings from his perch on the bookshelf, tail twitching with curiosity. Blackbean noticed him but showed no signs of aggression, only a mild interest that made Sarah's heart swell with hope. The first night was challenging. Blackbean needed to go out every few hours, and each trip required Sarah to help support his weight. By morning, she was exhausted but determined. "Good boy," she praised as he managed to eat a small breakfast. "Such a good, brave boy." Mike stopped by that afternoon, bringing supplies and checking on both patient and caregiver. "How's our comfort food doing?" he asked, using the nickname that had stuck. "Better, I think," Sarah replied, showing him the chart where she tracked Blackbean's symptoms and medications. "He's eating well, and I think the swelling might be down a little." Mike knelt beside Blackbean, giving him a gentle pat. "You know, I've been doing some research on liver disease in dogs. There's this holistic vet in the next town who's had great success with alternative therapies alongside traditional treatment. Might be worth looking into." Sarah's eyes lit up. "That's wonderful. Could you get me their information? I want to try everything that might help." As weeks passed, Blackbean's improvement was slow but steady. The fluid in his abdomen gradually decreased, and his energy levels began to rise. Sarah discovered he had a particular love for classical music, seeming to relax especially during Mozart symphonies. Mr. Whiskers, initially wary, became Blackbean's unlikely nurse, often curling up next to him during naps and seeming to sense when the dog was having a difficult day. The holistic vet Mike recommended, Dr. Wong, suggested adding certain herbs to Blackbean's regime and taught Sarah massage techniques to help with circulation. She also recommended gentle exercise as Blackbean grew stronger. "Short walks," Dr. Wong advised. "Just a few minutes at first. Let him set the pace." Their first walk was barely to the end of the driveway and back, but Blackbean's tail wagged the entire time. Each day, they went a little further, Sarah carefully monitoring his breathing and energy levels. The neighborhood quickly learned Blackbean's story, and supporters emerged everywhere. Mrs. Johnson from next door would sit with him when Sarah needed to run errands. The local pet store donated a memory foam bed. Children would stop on their way home from school, asking permission to give him gentle pats. But perhaps the most touching support came from unexpected sources. The local senior center, having heard about Blackbean through one of their volunteers, began sending handmade blankets. A group of elementary school students wrote him get-well cards, complete with crayon drawings of a black dog playing in sunshine. One morning, about 2 months after Blackbean's rescue, Sarah woke to an unusual sound. It took her a moment to identify it, a soft, playful bark coming from the living room. Hurrying downstairs, she found Blackbean gently pawing at Mr. Whiskers, his tail wagging, inviting play for the first time since his arrival. "Oh, sweetie," Sarah whispered, trying not to interrupt the moment. She grabbed her phone, recording the precious interaction to share with Mike and the veterinary team. It wasn't just play. It was proof that Black Bean was finally feeling secure enough to act like a dog again. The weekly visits to Dr. Martinez showed steady improvement. The fluid in his abdomen had reduced significantly, though they knew his liver would always need special care. His coat, once dull and patchy, was growing in thick and glossy, especially after Sarah started adding fish oil to his carefully planned meals. "I think we can start reducing some of his medications," Dr. Martinez announced during one checkup. "His latest blood work shows remarkable improvement. Whatever you're doing, Sarah, keep it up." Sarah beamed with pride, remembering the countless nights of interrupted sleep, the careful medication schedules, the gentle exercises, and most importantly, the endless amounts of love she'd poured into Black Bean's recovery. "He's doing all the hard work?" she replied, watching as Black Bean charmed one of the vet techs into giving him extra belly rubs. "I'm just his cheerleader." The transformation wasn't just physical. Black Bean's personality continued to blossom, revealing a dog who loved to learn new things. Sarah discovered he had a talent for puzzle toys, solving even complex ones with remarkable patience. He developed a routine of bringing his favorite toy, a soft blue elephant, to greet visitors, as if offering them a gift. One day, Mike brought over his therapy dog, Luna, a gentle golden retriever who specialized in helping other dogs regain confidence. The introduction was careful and controlled, but they needn't have worried. Black Bean and Luna became fast friends, their play sessions becoming a regular part of his recovery routine. "You know," Mike observed, watching the dogs interact, "he might make a good therapy dog himself one day. He's got the perfect temperament for it." Sarah hadn't thought about it before, but the idea took root. Black Bean had such a gentle way about him, such patience and understanding. Perhaps his journey from suffering to healing could help others facing their own challenges. Spring arrived, bringing with it new milestones. Black Bean could now manage longer walks, his stamina improving daily. He developed a fascination with butterflies, watching them with comical intensity as they fluttered through Sarah's small garden. The neighbors got used to seeing them sitting together on the front porch, Black Bean basking in the sunshine while Sarah read her books. The transformation of Sarah's home was equally remarkable. What had once been a quiet space shared with just Mr. Whiskers had become a place filled with dog beds, toy boxes, and the constant sound of jingling tags. Photos of Black Bean's progress covered one wall, from that first day in the snow to recent images of him playing in the spring sunshine. But perhaps the most significant change was in Sarah herself. She'd always been compassionate, but Black Bean's journey had opened her heart in new ways. She started volunteering more at the rescue, especially with medical cases that others might consider hopeless. Her experience with Black Bean gave her the confidence to tackle challenging cases, always remembering that love and patience could work miracles. One evening, as she sat on the porch watching Black Bean and Mr. Whiskers share the last rays of sunshine, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The sick, abandoned dog from the snow had transformed into a happy, healthy companion who brought joy to everyone he met. "You know what, sweet boy?" she said, scratching behind his ears just the way he liked. "Sometimes the biggest miracles come in fur coats." Black Bean responded by placing his head in her lap, his eyes full of trust and affection. Gone was the confusion and fear from that first day, replaced by absolute certainty that he was home. He was loved, and he would never be abandoned again. As summer approached, Dr. Martinez suggested it was time to consider making Black Bean's adoption official. Though Sarah had been fostering him through the rescue organization, everyone knew he had already found his forever home. "I think it's time to make it official," Dr. Martinez said during a checkup. "His condition is stable, he's thriving in your care, and frankly, I've never seen a better match." The adoption ceremony at the rescue center was small but meaningful. Mike brought Luna, the staff decorated with blue balloons, Black Bean's favorite color, they discovered, and someone even baked dog-friendly cupcakes. When Sarah signed the final papers, Black Bean sat perfectly beside her, as if he understood the significance of the moment. But this wasn't the end of their story. In many ways, it was just the beginning. Sarah hadn't forgotten Mike's suggestion about therapy work. After discussing it with both veterinarians, they began the process of training Black Bean for therapy dog certification. His natural gentleness and intuition made him an ideal candidate. The training process revealed even more about Black Bean's remarkable character. He seemed to have a sixth sense about people who were hurting or scared. During one training session, he gravitated toward a young girl who was there with her own therapy dog in training. The girl's mother later explained that her daughter was recovering from a serious illness, and Black Bean's gentle presence had made her smile for the first time in weeks. "See," Mike said, watching the interaction. "He knows what it's like to heal. That's what makes him special." The therapy dog training program was intensive, requiring both Black Bean and Sarah to learn new skills. They worked on commands, behavior in different environments, and how to interact safely with people of all ages and abilities. Through it all, Black Bean's liver condition required constant monitoring, but he seemed to thrive on having a purpose. Sarah started a blog documenting their journey, sharing both the challenges and triumphs of rehabilitating a seriously ill dog. The blog caught the attention of a local newspaper, which ran a feature story about Black Bean's transformation from abandoned pet to therapy dog in training. The article brought unexpected attention. Other pet owners dealing with liver disease in their dogs reached out for advice and support. Sarah found herself becoming an advocate for medical foster care, speaking at rescue events about the importance of giving sick animals a chance. "Every life has value," she would say, with Black Bean sitting proudly beside her. "Sometimes they just need someone to believe in them." 1 year to the day after finding Black Bean in the snow, Sarah organized a special event at the local animal shelter. Black Bean, now a certified therapy dog, helped welcome potential adopters and comfort nervous animals. His story, posted on a bulletin board with before and after photos, inspired several adoptions of senior and special needs pets. During quiet moments at home, Sarah would sometimes look at the old photos and marvel at how far they'd come. The scared, sick dog tied to a post in the snow was now a confident, loving companion who helped others heal. Mr. Whiskers remained his best friend. The unlikely pair often found curled up together in patches of sunlight. Black Bean's medical needs hadn't disappeared. He still required special food, medications, and regular checkups. But these had become routine, just part of their daily life together. His liver condition was stable, managed through a combination of traditional and holistic treatments, and while he would never be completely cured, he was happy and comfortable. "You know what the best medicine is?" Sarah would tell visitors who asked about his recovery. "Love, pure and simple." And Black Bean, with his soulful brown eyes and gentle spirit, proved this truth every day. Whether he was comforting a scared child at the hospital, helping a nervous dog feel safe at the shelter, or simply sharing quiet moments with Sarah on their porch, he showed that the capacity to love and heal was limitless. As Black Bean's second year with Sarah approached, life had settled into a beautiful rhythm. Their mornings began with gentle exercises and medication, followed by therapy visits to various facilities throughout the week. Black Bean had become somewhat of a local celebrity, known not just for his remarkable recovery story, but for the countless lives he'd touched through his therapy work. One particularly memorable day, they received a call from Dr. Martinez about a special case. Another dog with severe liver issues had been brought to the clinic, and the owners were considering euthanasia because they felt overwhelmed by the potential care requirements. "Would you mind talking to them?" Dr. Martinez asked Sarah. "Your experience with Black Bean might help them see there's hope." Sarah agreed immediately, and that afternoon, she and Black Bean met James and Maria Thompson, whose 5-year-old Labrador, Luna, no relation to Mike's dog, was suffering from similar symptoms to what Black Bean had experienced. As Sarah shared their story, Black Bean seemed to sense the couple's distress. He gently placed his head on Maria's lap, looking up at her with those understanding eyes that had become his trademark. The simple gesture brought tears to Maria's eyes. "He was really as sick as our Luna?" James asked, watching Black Bean's healthy, active demeanor with disbelief. Sarah pulled out her phone, showing them photos from those first days. "Even sicker," she explained. But with proper care and love, these conditions can be managed. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. The meeting proved transformative. The Thompsons decided to give Luna a chance, and Sarah found herself with a new role mentor to other pet parents facing similar challenges. She started a support group that met monthly in her backyard, where people could share advice, experiences, and encouragement while their dogs played under Blackbean's gentle supervision. Mr. Whiskers, now elderly himself, remained the constant supervisor of these gatherings from his favorite window perch, occasionally deigning to join the group when the weather was particularly pleasant. As Blackbean's therapy work expanded, they began visiting nursing homes regularly. It was here that one of the most touching chapters of their story unfolded. During a routine visit, an elderly resident named Dorothy became extremely emotional upon meeting Blackbean. "I had to give up my dog when I moved here," she explained, her hands trembling as she stroked Blackbean's soft fur. "He looked just like your boy." From that day forward, Dorothy became a special stop on their visits. Blackbean would spend extra time with her, seemingly understanding her need for companionship. Sarah arranged with the nursing home staff to bring Dorothy to some of their support group meetings, where she became an honorary member, sharing stories of her own experiences with pets over the years. The impact of their work began to spread beyond their local community. Sarah's blog attracted readers from around the world, and she started receiving invitations to speak at animal welfare conferences. Blackbean's story became an inspiration for rescue organizations looking to expand their medical foster programs. One fall morning, as Sarah and Blackbean walked their favorite trail, they encountered something that brought their journey full circle. Near the path, they found a small cat carrier, abandoned in the leaves. Inside was a frightened young cat, clearly ill and undernourished. Without hesitation, Sarah called Mike and Dr. Martinez. As they waited for help to arrive, Blackbean lay down next to the carrier, his presence somehow calming the scared feline. Sarah couldn't help but remember that cold winter day when she'd found him, and how one act of kindness had set in motion such an extraordinary chain of events. The rescued cat, whom they named Hope, would eventually join their household after recovery, forming an unlikely trio with Blackbean and Mr. Whiskers. It seemed fitting that their family, built on second chances and healing, would continue to grow. As winter returned, bringing with it memories of that fateful day, Sarah organized a special anniversary celebration at the rescue center. The event, dubbed Blackbean's Hope Festival, became a community gathering that celebrated not just Blackbean's journey, but all special needs and elderly pets who needed homes. The rescue center's main hall was transformed with photos and stories of successful adoptions inspired by Blackbean's story. Local businesses donated supplies, veterinary services, and special needs pet equipment to help other families caring for animals with medical conditions. During the festival, Blackbean worked the room like the professional therapy dog he'd become, somehow knowing exactly who needed his special attention. He spent extra time with a young boy in a wheelchair who was there to choose his first pet, and later settled quietly beside an elderly woman who was grieving the recent loss of her companion animal. "It's like he has a GPS for healing," Mike commented, watching Blackbean navigate the crowd with gentle purpose. "He knows exactly where he's needed most." The festival also served as the launch for a new initiative, the Blackbean Fund, a specialized program to help families cover the costs of long-term medical care for their pets. Sarah had worked with the rescue center to establish this fund, knowing firsthand how overwhelming medical expenses could be. "No one should have to abandon their pet because they can't afford treatment," Sarah explained to a local reporter covering the event. "Sometimes people just need a little help and hope to get through the tough times." The fund's first recipient was there that day, a single mother named Rachel whose elderly German Shepherd had recently been diagnosed with a serious heart condition. Thanks to the fund, she could afford the medications her dog needed, and both she and her children were there to share their story. As Sarah watched Blackbean interact with festival attendees, she reflected on how far they'd come. His own health remained stable, though he still needed daily medications and regular checkups. The slight swell of his belly would always be there, a reminder of his past, but it didn't slow him down or diminish his joy for life. Mr. Whiskers, now moving a bit slower with age, had his own fan club at the festival. People who followed their story online were delighted to meet the cat who had helped nurse Black Bean back to health. He accepted the attention with his typical feline grace, while Hope, their newest family member, watched curiously from her special enclosed stroller. Dr. Martinez gave a presentation about medical foster care, using Black Bean's case as an example of what was possible with dedication and love. Sometimes the cases that seem most hopeless turn out to be our greatest teachers, she said, as Black Bean dozed contentedly at her feet. At home, settled in their favorite spot on the porch swing, despite the cold, Sarah hugged Black Bean close. "You know what, sweet boy? Sometimes the things that seem like endings are really just beautiful beginnings." Black Bean responded with his signature gentle tail wag, then turned his attention to watching the falling snow. Secure in the knowledge that he was home, he was loved, and his legacy would continue to inspire hope in others for years to come. Years passed, and Black Bean's gentle influence continued to ripple outward. The Black Bean Fund had helped over 100 families keep their beloved pets, and their support group had expanded to 3 different locations. Their story had inspired similar programs across the country, all focused on giving medically challenged pets a second chance at life. Though he had slowed down somewhat with age, Black Bean's spirit remained as bright as ever. His therapy work now focused primarily on the nursing home where Dorothy lived, and he had developed a special talent for working with memory care patients. Hope had grown into a confident cat who often accompanied them on therapy visits, having earned her own therapy animal certification. One spring morning, as Sarah and Black Bean sat in their garden, watching the butterflies he still loved to track, she realized something profound. The frightened, sick dog she had found in the snow hadn't just been saved. He had become a healer in his own right, teaching everyone he met about resilience, forgiveness, and the transformative power of love. Their daily routine had evolved with age but remained centered around joy. Morning medications were followed by gentle walks. Therapy visits were shorter but no less meaningful, and afternoon naps in the sunshine became a cherished ritual. Each day was a gift, celebrated with the wisdom that comes from having faced uncertainty and emerged stronger. The local veterinary school now used Black Bean's case in their teaching program, showing students how traditional and holistic treatments could work together. Dr. Martinez often said that Black Bean had taught her as much about healing as any textbook ever had. "It's not just about treating the condition," she would tell her students. "It's about seeing the spirit inside each animal and helping that spirit thrive." Sarah continued to write about their experiences, and her blog had evolved into a book, Lessons from Black Bean: How a Rescued Dog Taught Me to Live, Love, and Heal. The book's message was simple but powerful. Every life has value, and love is the most powerful medicine of all. On warm evenings, their front porch became a gathering place for neighbors and friends. People would stop by with their dogs, share stories, seek advice, or simply sit quietly, enjoying the peace that seemed to emanate from their little corner of the world. Black Bean would greet each visitor with his characteristic gentle enthusiasm, still carrying his blue elephant toy to share with special guests. The rescue center had a wall dedicated to what they called Black Bean success stories, photos of special needs pets who had found homes because their potential adopters had been inspired by his journey. Each picture represented not just an animal saved, but a family made whole through the decision to open their hearts to an animal in need. As Sarah watched Black Bean dozing in his favorite sunbeam one afternoon, Mr. Whiskers curled up beside him and Hope perched nearby. She thought about how life's greatest blessings often come disguised as challenges. What had seemed like a desperate situation on that cold winter day had transformed into a journey of joy, purpose, and endless love. Black Bean lifted his head and gave her that special look, the one that still melted her heart after all these years. And she knew that sometimes the most important stories aren't about dramatic rescues or miraculous cures. Sometimes they're about the quiet magic that happens when we choose love over fear, hope over despair, and trust that even in our darkest moments, light will find its way through. And in that light, there's enough warmth and healing for us all.